See that there? That is a 1977 Star Wars poster, if you can see it all. There. And if you can see here, this is an autograph from Darth Vader himself, Dave Prowse. Hello there YouTube, and welcome to Movie Talk, which is, in this special edition that is the Star Wars special. So, today is May the 4th, and may I say Happy Star Wars Day to all. So, as you know, I am a huge fan of the Star Wars franchise, and if you watched the intro, you'll have seen that I was showing off my 1977 Star Wars poster. If you look at it again, you can see it there, signed by Darth Vader himself, David Prowse. So, yes, just sort the camera out there. So yeah, Star Wars. So this is a franchise that is still very much alive. And also, it's its 40th anniversary this month. 40 years of Star Wars. How insane is that? So, Star Wars. For me, it all started with in 1997, when Star Wars hit its 20th anniversary. God, 20 years ago now. I was 6 years old, and I was watching Return of the Jedi on video. God, so ancient now. I feel old just talking about the 90s and that. But yeah, that was the first one I can remember watching, and then I was just fascinated by it. But then in 1999, when Episode 1 came out, I was blown away by that, and from then on I loved the Star Wars films. Episode 2 came out, I loved that. Episode 3, I was a fully fledged Star Wars fan, and I've never lost interest in the genre since. So, Star Wars. Well, it was 1976. New filmmaker George Lucas, after making a low-budget movie called American Graffiti, wanted to do something that was out of this world. So he got making thinking of ideas for a story, like Space Farm or, Space Wars. But, of course, in the end, he went with Star Wars. So, the film started production sometime in 1975-76. And, of course, he had to get his cast together. So, George Lucas wrote and directed the first Star Wars movie, and the film starred Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, Peter Cushing, and Sir Alec Guinness. And also Peter Mayhew, Kenny Baker, God rest his soul, and Anthony Daniels as Chewbacca, R2-D2 and C-3PO. So, yeah, the film was being made in 1976. Of course, with the technology that George Lucas had available at the time, he couldn't, really. He had to make do with what he had, because technology back then was very limited. So, originally due for a Christmas release in 1976, there was a problem with production of that film, so they had to postpone it. And then it came out in May 19th, was it? I think? May 19th, 1977. And, well, it was an overnight success. I don't think George Lucas, pictured for his film was gonna, do as well as he thought it would. Now, the film had one of the most infamous villains of all time, Darth Vader. And if you can see up there, on the top shelf, I have my Darth Vader helmet. I'll give you a close-up look at that later. So, yes, Star Wars, it was an overnight success, and it wasn't long before fans wanted more. I mean, the film gained a lot of merchandise, like figurines and that. Of course, a lot of people were more drawn to Han Solo as their favourite good guy, not Luke Skywalker. And for Mark Hamill, he was about 24 at the time. For him, he was hoping to, get his big break in that, which of course in many ways he did. But Harrison Ford was sort of having the career that Mark Hamill should have had, and that really hit him hard. So yeah, 3 years later, 1980 came along, and we got the second film in the series, titled The Empire Strikes Back. Star Wars Episode 4 was originally just titled Star Wars. The second one was called The Empire Strikes Back, and of course that one is probably known for the most shocking twist of all time, and those immortal words spoken by the main villain, Darth Vader, and that of course is, "Luke, I am your father." So, yes. Now, here's a fun fact for you. David Prowse, and I've met him twice, he's a nice bloke, but David Prowse and the whole cast and that had no idea that he was going to be Luke's father, because in the actual film, David Prowse's actual line was, "No, Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father," and all that, and he says, "No, Luke, he killed your father." That was the line, but James Earl Jones, who voiced Darth Vader, he had George Lucas and James Earl Jones had a different idea for that, and he changed the script for James Earl Jones, and his was, "No, Luke, I am your father." And those are immortal words to this very day, because everyone knows The Empire Strikes Back for that. Of course, The Empire Strikes Back introduced us to Yoda, the Jedi Master, and of course it also introduced us to Lando Calrissian. Obi-Wan Kenobi, played by Alec Guinness, came back in it still as a ghost, and that's what happened with him. He became a force ghost. Now, of course, Star Wars is also known for the Force. It's like a power source. It surrounds us. The Jedi, the Force is what gives the Jedi its power. And a lightsaber is the weapon of a Jedi Knight. Now, all Jedis seem to have blue or green lightsabers. The Sith, which are like the opposite, have like red lightsabers. And that. I'm not going to get too much into the detail about the Jedi and the Sith. I'm just focusing on the films at the moment. So, George Lucas and that did. So yeah, about 3 years later, another 3 years later, 1983 came along, and production for the film Revenge of the Jedi was being made. In that one, we got to see Jabba the Hutt at last, because before that, he was just a crime boss. No one really knew who he were or what he looked like, but in episode 6 we got to see a good look of him. Although in 1997, in the 20th anniversary edition, he appeared in episode 4, and I'll explain more about that later when we get to it. So, Revenge of the Jedi was when Luke decided to accept the truth, find out the truth about his father, and of course, in its post-production, George Lucas changed the title from Revenge of the Jedi to Return of the Jedi. So then, because Revenge, I just don't think he thought that sounded right, so he renamed it Return of the Jedi. And of course, Return of the Jedi, it tied all them loose ends that were left on the end of The Empire Strikes Back and stuff. Well, it just answered a few of the questions. The 90s is when we got to explore the history of the franchise. So anyway, in 1983, in Return of the Jedi, we finally got to see Darth Vader unmasked at the end. Now, here's another fact for you. David Prowse played Darth Vader and James Earl Jones voiced him, but the scene when they removed the mask from Darth Vader, it wasn't David Prowse. It was an actor called Sebastian Shaw, who was meant to play Anakin Skywalker, and he played Anakin Skywalker's Force Ghost at the end, because it's like they stopped his inner evil and that, so that's what happened in that. Also, episode 4, not episode 4, it was still, memory just ran out a bit there, it was still Return of the Jedi, and that introduced us to Warwick Davis, who is a dwarf actor who is known for many roles these days, such as Willow and many others and that, and even a TV presenter. He was also Leprechaun. Do you know they also had Tony Cox in there too, who played an Ewok? Yes, it did. Tony Cox, who I know as a dwarf actor who plays the elf in Bad Santa. Okay, so, yeah, 1983 is when the Star Wars trilogy concluded. But of course, it was all far, far from over. Because, you know, a new generation were about to be introduced to the series. In 1997, the 20th anniversary edition of the trilogy was released. Digitally re-altered to some degree. And changed a bit. So there were a lot of changes in that. So yeah, they digitally re-altered the films with 90s digital effects, so it was a bit crappy if you look back at it now, but at the time it was good effects. Jabba the Hutt, in episode 4, it was a deleted scene, and he was originally a fat bloke in Star Wars, until they CGI'd him and put a big fat slug creature over him. And also, Emperor Palpatine. He wasn't originally a wrinkly white bloke. He was originally a gold guy with bulging eyes and that in the Empire Strikes Back, in that scene where Darth Vader's talking to him. Also, Jabba's palace. His house band was originally just a puppet with a long mouth, anteater mouth, but that's been re-altered now to a scene where it sounds like where it's all redone and that. So that's the original trilogy and it being remastered. So we went 2 years into 1999, and that is when the prequels came out, and we will get to that very shortly. But first, I said I'll show you my Darth Vader helmet. So let's go to that, shall we? So this here is my Darth Vader helmet. I got it for my birthday 12 years ago, nearly. And it used to fit me, but now it doesn't. And I thought, no, I'll keep it as a souvenir. So, there it is. So, in 1999, George Lucas revived the franchise with with episode 1, The Phantom Menace. This one, it was the first of a prequel trilogy, and it also had, you know, old and new faces in it, including Ewan McGregor as young Obi-Wan and Liam Neeson as his mentor Qui-Gon Jinn. He also had Frank Oz in it as Yoda again, and you know, it also had Jar Jar Binks, who a lot of people either love or hate. I didn't really like him. He got a bit on my nerves and irritating. Must be from the drunk subconscious of George Lucas's mind. So, yeah, as the story goes, that prequel, you know, in fact, all the prequels flopped in cinemas, and you know, I don't think that was very fair because, well, it's all critical and that. But yeah, I thought I liked the prequels. Okay, my least favourite one though is Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Also, Episode 1, The Phantom Menace gave us Darth Maul, who I'm assuming is the Phantom Menace. In fact, yeah, he is the Phantom Menace. With Ray Park as the character Darth Maul, voiced by British comedic actor Peter Serafinowicz. Okay, so in that one, it was about how they got Anakin. Anakin was played by Jake Lloyd in this one, and then Hayden Christensen in the other two. Now, Jake Floyd. Now, there are a lot of Easter eggs of Anakin and that becoming Darth Vader. Like at the end of the credits of Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, we hear Darth Vader's breathing. We do. And then also there's a shot in Episode 2 where we see Anakin's shadow sort of shaped like Darth Vader if you look carefully. That wasn't digital effects, that was pure coincidence because of the where they were standing and that. So then Episode 2 came along and it explored the love relationship between Padme Amidala, played by Natalie Portman, and Anakin Skywalker, now played by Hayden Christensen. Now in this he was like a moody arse teenager, but a bit of a spoiled brat and that, and yeah, he was a bit of an arse. And always had a temper tantrum and stuff, wanting to be a Jedi and what have you. Ewan McGregor reprised the role of Obi-Wan Kenobi, you know, because Alec Guinness is old and couldn't, well, really play him again, alright. So, what else do I have on that? Yeah, Episode 3 came along in 2005. So we had 1999, 3 years later, Episode 2, 2002, and then another 3 years later, Revenge of the Sith, Episode 3. Also, Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, filled in the loose end on how the Stormtroopers were made, because they were made as the Clone Army. And then in Episode 3, we find out that they turn to the dark side and become Stormtroopers, and wipe out the entire Jedi, basically taking us back to the original trilogy. Also in it, we get to see Luke and Leia born. So they're born, and then it pretty much goes back to the original films. Now, that was it. So, the Star Wars series, it did spawn like an extended universe in comics and graphic novels and games. It also had the Clone Wars, which was an animated series, and then they rebooted it in a digital animation film. Also, the Clone Wars introduced us to General Grievous. Now, I'm not a fan of Episode 2, like I've just said, it's my least favourite one. And then we had Clone Wars, the series, which were, again, computer animated, you know, half-hour episodes. Also, Star Wars, it's given us spin-offs like the Ewok Adventures, which are real films, and Star Wars Christmas Holiday. Now, in 2012, Star Wars, the whole franchise in Lucasfilms, George Lucas sold his film company to Disney. And Disney announced that they are going to be doing a new trilogy, the sequel trilogy, and they did. In 2014, our first teaser trailer was revealed, and the title was called The Force Awakens, introducing us to some old and new characters, including the return of Han Solo and Chewbacca, Princess Leia, Luke Skywalker, and new characters Rey, Finn, Kylo Ren, BB-8, all them lot. And it broke box office records and was like the second highest grossing film ever, I think. And yeah, I loved it. I waited till in the new year to see it because it was that crammed and busy when it first came out in Christmas 2015. And then a year later we were treated to another Star Wars movie. Now this was a prequel spin-off, Rogue One. Now Rogue One, I loved the film. It was like a proper prequel. It had Felicity Jones in it, Forrest Whitaker, and it was like how the rebellion stole the plans for the Death Star from the Empire, and it pretty much ties in the loose end from for episode 4. Also, we get Darth Vader in it as well. Also, a CGI'd Peter Cushing with a body double and his face CGI'd back in. Also, the same with Princess Leia at the end, because that's what happens. It follows straight on into episode 4, so you could pretty much watch all that. Also, in 2005, George Lucas digitally re-altered the films again, and then again in 2012 on Blu-ray, changing it again. Sorry, just short on memory there. Right, so yeah, putting it out on Blu-ray again, digitally re-altering it, and for us Star Wars fans, some of us thought, now he's just changing it for the sake of it. I think he was, but again, with the digital effects, he said he finally got to tell the story he wanted to tell. But now, the whole franchise isn't in his right. It isn't owned by him. It's owned by Disney, and they're good. And they made The Force Awakens and Rogue One. Yeah, good. They've announced that they're doing a Han Solo film, and they're also doing a Yoda film, I think. Maybe we'll get treated to another spin-off prequel between episode 8 and 9, because episode 9 has been said to be out for 2019. Episode 8, the teaser trailer came out at Easter, and that's been titled The Last Jedi. So yes, Star Wars. So yeah, loads of actors have wanted to be in Star Wars, and has had a lot of surprise cameos in. So yeah, a lot of actors have wanted to be in Star Wars, and we've had secret cameos from like Simon Pegg. He was in episode 7, along with Daniel Craig and many others. They were, look it up. So, yes, the Star Wars. Star Wars has even gained its own holiday, like today, Star Wars Day, May the 4th. And also, what else has it done? Loads and loads more. So, yeah. Also, what else can I tell you on this subject? It's even started a new religion, Jedi and Sith and that. It really has. So yes, Star Wars series. Even after the sequel trilogy is done, it will still be very much in there with everyone, you know, forever. George Lucas has created a great universe, and for that we thank him. So, also episode 8, it will be the last film from Carrie Fisher, because she passed away at Christmas 2016, which was sad. And she was a great actress, and she played Princess Leia greatly. She did other roles too, like Drop Dead Fred and like other things. And her daughter, who is also a lovely, beautiful woman, she too is acting as well. In such currently in the slasher comedy series Scream Queens, and also she was an extra in episode 7. She was. Okay, well, yeah, I can't think of anything more to say on this series. So yeah, if you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up if you like. Don't forget to share with your friends. Let me know down in the comments, what's your favourite Star Wars movie? For me, from the original trilogy, it's episode 4. Prequels, episode 3, and the sequel trilogy, episode 7 up to now. So yeah, be sure to let me know all that down in the comments. Also, all my social media links are down below, Facebook and Twitter, and yep. So yeah, till next time, I bid you all a goodbye, friends, goodbye, and may the 4th be with you.